I'm saxophonist Keith Loftus, and welcome to the 5th episode of Coffee with Loftus. I'm excited to sit down with bass extraordinaire, entrepreneur, and app developer Matt Garrison. So sit back, grab your coffee or tea, and enjoy. Matt Garrison, thank you so much for joining me for the 5th episode of Coffee with Loftus.
Oh wow, man! I'm honored. Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, man. I want to ask you, the first question is, how have you been during this crazy pandemic year with, the club and just overall, just your well-being and.
Yeah, well, luckily, healthy. All family members, healthy. Everybody's, no one that I know in my family has actually contracted this, the virus at all. So everybody's good on that side. I'm grateful for that.
Beautiful.
Some close friends have contracted it, and some of them have died, which was absolutely just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Some really good people. I mean, one in particular that really got to me was a good friend of mine, incredible musician. His name is Wallace Roney.
Yep.
And Wallace and I used to work together with Herbie, and I recorded on several of Wallace's records. He's one of the few cats that actually got me to play acoustic bass on his projects. He's just so sweet about how he just, come on, man, you can do it. So it's like, oh, Wallace, man, it's not my. He's like, come on. Wow. And but yeah, man. So I really miss him.
Yeah.
Of course, always sending lots of love to his family. And there's been so many other folks that have just, great musicians. Some of the elders that caught this thing that was just horrible.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy because it's still, with this new variant, we're trying to figure out like what's next.
I know. Well, from what I read, just what's next is another variant called Lambda, which is even worse than this Delta thing. So, look, man, talking about then how that affects the venue and music business, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
Because, obviously what's been helping us is that there have been grants that are, that have been, put forth by the federal government for all music venues, which saved us so far. But look, man, if this goes on any further for another 6, 9, 12 months, I don't see how it's sustainable by many other venues aside from us. So,
right.
This again. So, the sad part of that is that many institutions that we're all aware of will go away, including us. But there's always another opportunity. And when I say go away in regards to us, the business is alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an issue. It's just the location and, how the folks that own the property they want to get rid of it. And with that, we will go as well because we can't sustain what they're trying to get to. And by the way, they also receive federal government, federal funding to keep them alive. But then what they do in turn is they make sure that a business such as ours, which is one of the few minority-owned music businesses in the United States of America, music venues, have to leave because people just don't get it. They don't understand the importance of the kind of work that we do and what we need to kind of accomplish yet. But that doesn't mean that we're going away. That just means that this location is not going to make it. Okay. And I'm really sad to say that, but it's just a reality. We tried everything. We don't want to get into a huge legal battle, which would end up costing us more money that's
of course
necessary. I'd rather put that money towards the arts.
Right.
So anyway.
Yeah, man.
It's been in all of its difficulty, Keith, it's been terrifying.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, some other people that do get what's going on have come forth with flying colors, and you really see the huge potential of humanity and folks that believe in something that has to happen, and
Absolutely.
all the right people start coming around you, and the right folks start putting things in gear, and they where maybe, I don't know, 2 years ago it wasn't possible to have certain conversations. Now they're front and center.
Yep.
So,
Yep. That's the beauty. That's
yeah,
that's one of the beauties of what came out. But yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Hey,
Yeah.
man, let me ask you, I mean, just your history, man. You were brought up by two artists. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, can you just express a little bit, like, what was that like,
Of course, man.
coming up, man?
Yeah. So, born in New York City,
Mm-hmm.
Manhattan, Lenox Hill Hospital. I grew up on, first part of my life was up on the Upper West Side. When a lot of musicians were living up there, by the way, Miles Davis and I can't. I mean, it's so many folks that were up there. DeJohnette, Herbie Hancock, uh, the core folks that have basically created what we know as modern contemporary improvisational music were up there.
Yeah.
And then around 2 or 3, I moved with my mother downtown to Soho when it was a dump into a loft, which cost nothing at the time.
Yep.
And of course, that was part of the loft scene because we're talking about early 70s. So that, my mother was sort of like a really interesting precursor, or even just like a generator of that texture and that historical set of moments that were happening in the city. And, again, with the kind of things that she was presenting, she was, I remember seeing dance performances, some of the first like laser shows, and some guy came with this huge, Moog synthesizer with all the plugins, and that was part of the dance performance. But then there was this avant-garde music happening at the same time. And, when we talk about avant-garde, we're talking about a lot of the folks that we know as the avant-garde artists of New York City. That was all happening in our loft, man.
Wow.
Right? So that's what I was seeing when I was a little kid, like, 5, 6, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is just normal. This is how it is.
Wow.
So
wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, and then of course, there's the historical context of what my dad did, but because they were separated, I didn't really know my father too much. I didn't really get to hang out with him so much. So, but when he did come around towards the end of his life, and so when he was around, a lot of his friends would show up. We're talking like Freddie Hubbard and the Cats.
Yes.
And it was, I got the feeling of that sense of family and community and people, how much they loved each other. But I didn't understand any of the dynamics or the music. I was just a kid,
Right.
So growing up with them, I would say that was probably the most important part of my, just remembering what it meant to, it's stuck with me forever, And I think that's kind of what I was trying to reproduce here at Shapeshifter Lab as well, that sort of sense of community and, sense of community and everybody moving together to create something. Mm-hmm. Everyone, all colors, all ethnicities, all beliefs, all, that's been what we've been trying to do.
Amazing. So speaking of, we can lead right into Shapeshifter. So when did you start it, and how, you expressed a little bit of it, but just how did it come about? Was it a long process the
music venue?
Yes.
Yeah. I always had this, I think I'm one of those folks that likes to just make my own stuff.
Mm-hmm. I get it. Yep.
So, for example, I think I up until the age of 30, I'm 51 now. I'm a pretty old guy.
I'm right there with you, buddy.
Right? We're guy, let's call ourselves experienced.
Yes.
But up until about 30, man, I was just like the cat that would work with all these folks because I wanted to learn and understand and, just figure out how things worked. And I didn't want responsibility so much of doing things on my own. But I think at 30, I started working professionally as a musician at 20. And from 20 to about 30, I worked continuously for 10 years. Because that was like a serious height of stuff going on throughout the 90s. And I work with, Zawinul and Steve Coleman and John McLaughlin and, a whole bunch of
Wow.
pop artists and everything from avant-garde to, the whole pop thing and just everything, all of it.
Yeah.
But then I hit 30. I got kind of burnt out from working so much, and I figured, okay, let me start doing something that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started putting the music together, and then I started approaching folks in the record industry. Okay, could this work? And I got rejected by everybody, of course. Also because I think there was a certain way that they expected me to do the thing that,
Right. Yeah.
and that's just not what I wanted. I wanted to do something that had to do with the people around me. So what I'm leading to, I'm getting to Shapeshifter Lab.
No.
Right? It builds up to that.
Yeah.
The point is, okay, I figured, okay, let me create a small record label. I'll pay for all the recordings. I'll pay for the mixing and the mastering. I'll write all the music. I'll arrange it. I'll call the people. I'll publish it. I'll create my own publishing company. I'll be the person that's going to register all the music, the Office of Copyrights. I learned all that stuff. And I formed a small record label. Mm-hmm. And I started selling CDs basically out of my apartment. And man, it was incredible, actually, to live through that. Then I built my own website to accompany that, and I would sell these CDs through the website. And what people would do is they would print out an order,
right,
and send me a check from wherever they were, whatever the equivalent was in dollars. It was just insane, man.
Wow.
And it worked.
Wow.
And so I would spend most of my days filling it, because I would also sign each CD and package it and send it off. And then I'd have friends come and help because sometimes we'd get too much.
Yep.
And anyway, so look, that put it in my head. Okay, I'm just going to, wherever I hear no, I'm going to create the yes. Yep. I can't take no. I can't take it, man. Especially when you're doing something important, right?
That's right.
So that then started propagating to everything else. And at that point when I was 30, I was also thinking, you know what? Why don't I try something else? I want to try to do some live performances with a lot of the people that I really like. So there was a place down in Tribeca. It's called Walker Street. It's just this open, very open loft kind of thing. And I jammed there, and then I approached the guy that owned the place. I was like, hey, man, what if I put on a little festival here? And we talked about it. We figured it out. And I did a month-long festival every Saturday or something like that.
Wow.
And and I think, a lot of the cats that I invited were, just my heroes, people that I really loved that would say yes, that would make it. Everyone from, it was a huge roster. Jim Beard,
wow.
Andy Milne, Gene Lake, and, Harsh Calais. I don't know if you remember him at the time. Jojo Mayer had a project, and David Binney, Jim Black, just the whole spectrum of music. Then I even invited Kurt Rosenwinkel. I invited Martin Medeskian Wood. I invited Mike Stern, a whole bunch of folks.
Wow.
And, Kurt never responded. Martin Medeskian Wood sent me off to their management. Nothing happened. Mike Stern didn't answer. Well, I think we had a conversation. He just had some other stuff. So, but the first Saturday, it is a place that fit about 300 people. About 20 people showed up. I was like, oh, crap, man, what am I doing? Right. And I'm the guy at the door, by the way, collecting tickets. Man, that's just how I do this shit, man.
Hey, man, I have to say this. When we met a few months back,
yeah,
and I walked in.
Was I sweeping the floor? What was I doing?
No, you were tuning the piano.
There you go.
I was like, great. Matt Garrison is like, man, he's really hands-on with everything.
Man. No, listen, I'll finish this off, and then you'll get an idea of why Shapeshifter Lab exists. Yeah. So then, second Saturday, I was like, by the second Saturday rolls around, about 50 people show up, right? So I was kind of ready to quit by that second. And then folks around me are like, look, man, just see it out. Let's see what happens. that was cool. We moved on. Next one comes up, the third one. It all of a sudden it was kind of a little bit exponential. So we had about, I don't know, like 150 people there, and I was like, oh shit, wait a minute.
Right.
And I'm at the door like counting money and the tickets and the people. You know. Fourth one happens, and there were too many people. We couldn't let them all in.
Wow.
Not only, but then Medeski, Martin, and Wood showed up trying to figure out what was going on. Kurt Rosenwinkel showed up trying to figure out what's happening, and some other cats that I invited that didn't, really respond. All of a sudden, like, what the hell's going on here?
Right.
So here's my point. That, alongside the record label and the presentations and the producing the events and figuring out, learning all that information, at some point had to explode somewhere. And we just, when I met my business partner Fortuna Song, which by the way we've known each other since we were kids back in Italy, because we both grew up in Italy.
Wow.
We were both on some kind of mission to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look, I've always wanted to do this. What about you? And she was like, oh, I wanted to do a new business. I want to try something else. So we formed Shapeshifter Lab. And it was hard initially because, again, people didn't get it.
Okay.
But then at some point it kicked in, and it was some of those moments where you just couldn't handle everything that was going on. And look, on average, it's sort of a hidden location. So it's been a little bit hard.
Yeah.
In that regard, but actually no, because I know how New York City works. When people want to be somewhere, they're there.
Right.
You know what I mean? You could be in some little obscure, rinky-dink thing. If people really want to be there, they're going to show up.
That's right.
So I never take the evenings where there's a low turnout as a problem, because I just know at some point, because actually sometimes, even very unexpectedly, you might have a project that shows up and you're like, okay, well, this might be like 10 people might show up, and they pack it.
Right. Yep.
So, and I'll tell one last thing I'll say about this. I know there's this fixation with social media and how many people do you have following you and the things and the other. I've seen it from the other side as a presenter, where maybe initially I wanted to investigate what this meant. So we focused on some folks that really had a shitload of people following them.
Mm-hmm.
And they show up at this base where we know New York works. If people want to be there, they're going to be there.
That's right.
So someone has 150,000 followers. They get on stage and 3 people show up to the show.
Yeah.
So I can't be fooled by any of those numbers. That means nothing to me or us. We don't care. We only care that the music is important. It's going in a certain direction. You have a certain vision.
Yeah. We
want to assist that as much as we can with whatever we have.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, it's been incredible. It's been an incredible experience. It will not end. It will just mutate. It will shapeshift.
It will shapeshift and transform.
Yeah, man.
Yep. Yeah, man. Wow, man. So, man, fill me in on this app.
Yeah.
The Matt Garrison app. Is that the official?
We had to do something. Because man, I love this conversation because it actually brings me back to why all these things, the way they start, and they always start like no one knows what the hell's going on. What are you doing? What are you trying to say? What is this? What is this? A music venue? Is it a studio? Is it a school? Do you have a record label? Are you selling? What do you do? What's going on?
Right.
What's happening with the app right now? They're figuring out, okay, you got something named after you. What are you doing? Simple thing. I'm presenting all the music I've ever recorded. Why can I do that? I never sold the publishing to anybody. I never sold the music to any. I never split, the rights with any record label. Every record I've made, I've funded it myself.
Absolutely.
So I can do whatever I want with the music at any moment that I want to, including the video, where we make sure everybody signs off, and so we own all the rights, all that stuff. So basically, it's a living archive. So I put on all my older recordings. Sometimes they'll have the highest quality audio possible because I could present it that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have a new concept that's going to come out through the app where, because I do surround sound mixes too. We actually do surround sound shows for my performances too. But we'll do surround versions of some of the music. And then it's a current thing. So in the current sense, so there's past, which is all the old recordings. The current part is we do live streams like we're doing now.
Okay.
I'll do sometimes an interview. In fact, I might want to interview you, sir.
Okay.
That would be kind of fun. We'll do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the moment I've been interviewing mostly bass players that have been on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Been great. I just interviewed James Genius yesterday. It was incredible.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
James is just beautiful, man. It's just to hear his history. Next week we're doing an interview with Tim LaFave, another great musician that I've known for many, many years. So the app, and then so there's the present, which is the live streams. Then those things are archived, and people can go see them whenever they want to. So they can watch it in real time, and then they can watch them after the fact. And then there's sort of the future in the sense that I just released a new record. It's called Generations. That record, basically, what I did is I released the templates of the songs. And so what you can do with this app, in addition to just releasing audio, you can release kind of what we're looking at now with Zoom, where you have your clip and my clip.
Oh, right? Kind of like stems,
stems, but also video.
Okay.
Right. So people can actually, but there's another component. For example, let's say you and I are having this chat, and all of a sudden you decided you wanted the interview to be with, I don't know, James Genius.
Right.
So there's a little button at the bottom, and you swap it out, and now there's James Genius instead of me. So now it's not a live thing. That's pre-configured, right? So the point is, James Genius and I will have recorded ourselves already. So there's his bass playing, and then my bass playing, and then there might be another drummer, but then you can also swap out that other drummer. So now you can hear the various configurations of James Genius with that drummer, and then the other drummer, then me with that drummer and the other drummer. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So we're approaching it so that the music is always fresh in the sense that whoever comes to play, because we call folks that really know how to use that, they've grown up making music like that.
Right.
Gives their complete own twist. I don't really tell them anything. I just give them the form of the music, and I say, "Go."
Wow.
This is how long it is. Do what you do. And so, for example, the record I have now, I'm going to start adding new people, and people will start hearing the difference of approach for every drummer that we might invite, and every bass player, and every pianist, and right?
Wow.
So it's a shifting piece of music as well. And I can keep doing that for the next several years so that people will see this project grow and expand. In some cases, for example, we started out as a duo, and now there's a big band arrangement of that duo interaction. So people can go from the big band back down to the duo and see how it all expanded over time as well.
Wow.
So that's really the fundamental of that app. It's past, present, and future of how I'm looking at creating content, creating music, and releasing it to the people that are really interested. So it's a niche market. That's why we just figured, just put your name on it. Who else is going to be, it's just going to be the people that really care.
Right.
It could be some technophiles that are into that stuff. But,
yeah.
Anyway, that's what that is. It's been incredible. And on top of that, just one last thing. Not only is the music updatable, like I just said, the app is updatable so that if we have some new ideas of how we want to present the music, we'll add some newer technology to the app, right? So it's this beautiful kind of like forward-moving thing where things are just
very nice.
They're on the pace that I want them to be versus a record label. I don't want to work like that.
Right.
I don't want to be stifled. I need to keep going.
Wow, man. Congratulations on the new record and the app, man. This is I mean, I've heard about it, and I saw a quick clip of you doing an interview, I think, with another bass player, I think in Italy or somewhere. Um,
Hmm.
um, I didn't get a chance to check out the whole interview, but yeah, I guess you guys were going to talk about the app and use the app. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
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 man,
yeah,
wow,
yeah, for
this
sure.
man, this sounds amazing. Wow.
It's been so much fun, man. I mean, and plus I'm working with, technology and it's just really where I live.
Yeah,
And, personally, I want to be in that place where things are changing. I don't want to be in the
absolutely,
stagnant stuff. I can't take it. I can't take it
absolutely.
when the industry settles on some shit and this is the way it's supposed to go.
Yep,
And how dare you think otherwise? You know what? No,
yep,
no, no, no.
yep,
I come from a group of people that just didn't care.
yep,
They just wanted to make a difference. And this is the only way I think we should all live, man.
yep.
Just keep trying something else.
That's right.
I mean,
I
anyway,
mean, it has to grow. I mean,
yeah,
it's just what it is. It has to grow and develop and transform. And yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow, man. So, man, I mean, I really admire you for your level of consistency and just you owning everything, because,
Yeah.
I kind of do the same thing. I have
Good.
my project, I've never been like on a major label or anything like that, but I
Hmm.
do. I mean, it's a joy once you have a thought and you see it through the dedication, the passion, and you see the final product. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it is a fulfilling
I love that, man.
thing.
I love what
Yeah.
you're saying. It's key. Because else, what are we doing on this planet?
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Wow, man.
Especially if you believe in what you look. I think the most important thing that to always keep, obviously the way that we're thinking is it could be construed as a little bit, controlling, and you want to. Okay, you could also look at it like that, and maybe there's other ways of handling it. I understand that part too, but I think at the core of that, no matter how people interpret what you're trying to do, at my core, and most likely as at yours as well, is a fascination and a love for what we do.
Yeah.
You don't just do it because you have to. You
Right.
know, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't really want to play music because I have to. You know what I mean? I want
Yep.
to do
I
it
know. I
because I love it. I
I
want
know
to do it
exactly
because
what you
I love
mean.
it. And if you reward me for that, I want you to reward me for the love that I have for that music, not because it's the job.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and again, I'm not trying to be this high and mighty person. I won't play. Just that's not about that. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, I need to make a living too. So it's important to work too. So I would never turn down work, but I also want to do the kind of work that I really appreciate what people are trying to do.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
think that's so important because or else it loses that the importance. And I'm also saying this because I've done it before. I've done work where
Yeah.
I wasn't really into it.
Yep.
And you just do it, and it's just kind of like you listen back, and it's like, oh man, why did I? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So out
Yeah,
of
man.
experience, I'd rather do things that are really important to me. And I think by doing that, you start attracting the right attention, and then you start getting rewarded for it. So
Absolutely, man. That vibration and frequency that you put out there
yeah,
is yep. Yep.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
Matt, man. I wanted to also talk. I mean, what was it like, playing with Whitney Houston?
That was interesting, man. That was a you know it was a little difficult because the how things work in her world and that
Mm-hmm.
world. But in the end, when you're making music and when for example during rehearsals, there was always that moment of like, oh, like this woman really knows her stuff. I remember at one point, she was working with her singers, the background singers, and she's like conducting them, doing the okay, let's go, just doing the whole thing. And then she like, stop, you. your pitch is a little bit off, and also the note that you chose, if you could give it a little bit more breath and the specific, she was really fine tuning the details of what she required. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
I see what's going on here.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Whitney Houston, the star and the movie star. It was the artist and the musician that was focusing, and that also spilled over to some other stuff. For example, during some of the rehearsals, this idle moments. So instead of just sitting around or waiting for the thing to start up again, some of us
Right.
would want to jam. And though she would just sit around and check things out.
Huh.
And you didn't want it to turn into this thing where you're trying to show off to Whitney, but it's just like you were just jamming, and then she would walk back in, but she would check it out. She wouldn't say anything. But then shortly thereafter, you would be on stage, and she'd be like, during the concert, one of the cats that was jamming, she'd be like, "You, come on, come out, let's do it," and she'd give you a feature.
Wow.
And so she gave that to me a couple of times as a bass player. Just say, "Go ahead, step out, do it, do your thing."
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I love that about her. And she was aside from the sort of like, I don't know how to use, I don't want to say crazy, but some the mega star stuff.
Right. Yeah.
She's definitely a diva. There's no doubt about that, man. That, like, the diva stuff.
Right.
Yeah. In the sense that, for example, sometimes she would refer to herself in the third person. Whitney would like some tea. Someone would come running it up with, So there's that side too.
Yeah.
And that for me was a little difficult to deal with, just because I just come from such a different world.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, overall, it was astonishing to be part of that whole production. And again, she's another one of You and Me, where she wanted to own all of her stuff. So, for example, a lot of the staging equipment was hers.
Wow.
And so, there would be, for example, essentially two separate stages. One would go to the next city and start getting ready, and there would be the one that was with us, and then they'd pack up that one, and then they would piggyback off each other, and that was all of her stuff.
Wow.
Whitnip Productions.
Huh.
You know what I mean?
Amazing.
So, yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's another inspiring moment to think about.
It is.
A Black woman, African American woman, in charge of this shit.
Yeah.
She wasn't playing around. So
wow.
I love that part of being able to be part of that movement and feel like you were part of something that was like, oh wow, this is how these things go. This is how it works. This is how these people really get the stuff together. And it was a machine, man.
Yeah.
It was a machine. They were a seriously well organized machine, and you don't mess with the system, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So and musically, sometimes it was a little stiff because you're working with computers. Sometimes you're following a sequencer, but other times you just had to play, which is great too.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful. I really appreciated the experience.
Wow, that's great, man.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
I mean, all the wonderful people, Herbie, Gary Bird, and Rashid. I'm just looking at all, Joni Mitchell. I mean, wow, man, you've had a beautiful, career, man. And
it's been fun, man. I've loved it. I feel I'm eternally grateful to every single person that has shown me something that to learn from. And all of those people have just been, whether they were proactive or just by showing by example. I know, for example, Gary was always very proactive, and Gary Burton, it's like, hey man, have you checked this out? What about this scale? What about this thing? Your solo here was a little,
Right.
I appreciated that too, man.
Yeah.
Or Steve Goldman's very critical and really hard to work with, but I mean, that was, blew my mind how to play that music.
Yeah.
And or working with Rashid Ali, just some, because Rashid is known for his sort of like the open territory, but when we work with him, he wanted to play time, and tunes.
What interesting. Wow.
Yeah. Cool. I loved it, man.
Wow.
But then, we had those moments where it would just go.
It would open, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think what, in like talking about the many possibilities that I've had, again, it's going to come back down to this love for the art,
Yeah.
of creating music. And it's just been such an inspiration to work with those people, and they keep giving you one more angle to keep moving one more step forward.
Yeah.
And man, it's just I really mean it when I'm grateful to all those incredible human beings I work with.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be more. So
yeah, man. Yeah, it's definitely a blessing, man. And
yeah,
and more to come. More
for
to
sure.
come. Yeah, man. Hey, man, I hope in the near future that we can either maybe grab some coffee or just do something.
Real coffee with Loftus.
Yeah. That would be wonderful, man.
I love that.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
So Matt, hey man, I know you're a busy guy, and I thank you for coming on. And let's catch up.
My pleasure.
And let's talk soon, man.
I'd love to, Keith. Thank you so much.
Man, thank you, man. I really appreciate it, man.
Me too.
Okay, take care, man.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.